Welcome home to Homespun, a weekly internet gathering of family, friends, and businesses from Platte County. Our purpose is to connect our community and showcase the colorful threads that run through our tapestry. Grab a warm cup of hometown goodness, sit back, put your feet up, and visit with us a while. I'm your host, Mark DeLapp, and I bring to you portions of interviews from some of our own. Welcome home, Platte County, to Homespun. So you raised hay and beef cattle. Now we raised dairy cattle, so it was a little bit different. There's a little bit more to that, but there was different challenges in both sides.
Oh, yeah.
What was the biggest thing for you? What was the biggest challenge for you raising some of these cattle?
Oh, just the calving aspect of it. We always calved in the corral over there. We didn't have much pasture land, so we calved in the corral. We fought the scours all the time until we could get them kicked out on green grass.
Sure.
Spring. That was our biggest challenge.
Sure. And what do you do now? Is it pretty much the same thing?
Yeah, we got a handful of Oriental cattle. They're recreational cattle. But we got a little farm of our own that we grow alfalfa on. Then I take care of a big farm for a lady in Texas, EE Ranches, and I grow alfalfa for her. And that's basically what we do.
Okay. So you pretty much stayed true to your roots then this whole time.
Yeah.
And tell me how you two met. And both of them laugh.
I don't know what you do. Okay, so when I was 14, I was at a high school rodeo in Wheatland, and this little redheaded guy came out during the high school rodeo and bulldogged a steer down. He was too big for him, but he got him handled, and I was like, the guy really handles himself. Anyway, a little while later, I was up in the grandstands, and I heard this laugh down around the corner, and it just piqued my curiosity, and so I went down around the corner, and I saw him standing with a couple of my friends, and anyway, in true Shonda fashion, I had to find out who he was, so I just found out who he was, and went home and looked through the phone book, and there was no Boyds in the phone book, so I had to figure out who he was staying with, and anyway, found out he lived with his grandparents, got his number, called him, asked him on a date.
This was even before that women got progressive. So you feel like sometimes, Shonda, you think you might be born out of time? You're in the wrong time period. But Tyler, answer me this. Is she a woman that doesn't take no for an answer?
Pretty much, yes.
Pretty much?
Yes.
So it's like the Spitfire that was attractive to you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He didn't have a choice.
You're mine.
And that was it, huh?
Yeah.
No, it was pretty odd, it was a perfect match right away. We kind of just really good friends. Just clicked right away.
Kind of like a soulmate type thing.
Absolutely.
Where you guys knew that God was putting you together and
well, without wisdom, and we split up, I don't know, when I was a junior. He went to college, and I was pretty insecure, and he went to LCCC, and Cowboys at LCCC should be worried about. And anyway, and I did, and so I broke up with him, and we tried it again my senior year, and it didn't work. And anyway, so we went on our own separate paths for 20 years.
Exactly 20 years.
Exactly 20 years, and it gets more ironic than that, but anyway, he called me. I had been in a terrible relationship. I had 4 kids. He had been in a rocky relationship and had kids. And anyway, my mom, who had brought Tyler up for, the whole time that I'd been away from Tyler, hey just wish you would have married Tyler. She saw him at a funeral and went and talked to him, of course. And then when she got back, I was living in South Dakota at the time. When she got back to South Dakota, she's, oh, Shonda, you should have seen who I saw. Tyler Boyd, and he looks so good, and he's doing so good. And I was engaged to marry someone. I was like, Mom, come on, you know. Anyway, he called me, and I rejected him first and made him, anyway, couldn't do it long enough.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we got back together 9 years ago, and it's been exactly what it, I mean.
So you guys have been married, what, almost 10 years then?
9 years.
9 years?
Just 9 years.
Wow, it looks like you two have been together forever.
Yeah,
it looks,
I mean,
there's just like, it's like a hand in a glove with you two.
It is.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how you sometimes you kind of look around and see how things and fate kind of introduces you to your destiny?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And don't you ever wonder sometimes, well, God, why did you wait so long before you brought him? And God says, because he wasn't ready.
Or she.
Or
yeah.
she wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Had lessons to learn.
Or as my mom said, do you know why Tyler had it so bad before? Just so that you wouldn't look so bad.
Now remember, neither one of us said that.
No.
So that was good. So the thing that we want to talk about mainly today is how you guys have gotten around to this website that have just absolutely taken off. And tell me the name of the website. It's like a huge long name that doesn't even fit on the page.
No, it's United States Meat and Produce Market. I could probably shut that down or cut that down to U.S. Meat and Produce Market.
Sure.
But
And
yeah.
whose idea was this?
God's.
Okay. So you just really felt a special.
It's like another long story. I have had a really rocky path. I mean, my lessons have been big.
Yeah.
And the fire has been hot.
Yes.
And anyway, but I went through.
I always say the greater the adversity, the greater the anointing.
And I had.
That's what happens.
And so I was in a bad relationship that every penny. I've been a painter since I was 19 years old. I painted houses since I was 19 years old, and then after a few years, I started even doing drywall and painting both. And anyway, but the person I was with, my ex-husband, he just spent it. And so when I went through my first crash in 2000, I went from I thought money grew on trees in Aspen, Colorado, and all you had to do was paint a few things and they would give you more money. And we hit that crash, and I had 2 little kids and had to move to Lincoln, Nebraska, and it was bad. I was homeless. And
you moved to, did you know anybody in Lincoln?
yeah, my ex had family there,
Okay, so you kind of went to a place without a home.
and that was barely a home that we went to. I mean,
Yeah.
It was bad. It was the equivalent of 8 Mile Trailer Park. It was bad.
Well,
If anybody knows O Avenue in Lincoln, Nebraska, that's where I was living.
we'll talk sometimes. I was in a car for a year.
Yep.
Yeah, so the greater the adversity.
Absolutely. So, I happened to use food banks, and the first time I'd ever been on welfare, it was horrible. Anyway, I started reading, learning how to. My dad had always talked about the stock markets, and he just was always racking his brain on how to save himself from the next whatever.
Big disaster.
Yeah, so it's it always had it was always in my mind to do that. And anyway, so I started reading on how the stock market, and started reading a lot of Robert Kiyosaki stuff, and Mark Risco, and just started learning how to benefit from crashes and take advantage. In every tragedy, there's an opportunity.
Right.
So I've been reading this for 20 years, just about the stock market, when to buy, when to sell. I'm a junkie for algorithms. I love algorithms. And anyway, so when all through 2019, there was this economic bubble. And I was waiting for it to pop. I was like, anytime. And so I homeschool my kids, and so we were having family conversations. I'm like, we got to watch this. This is going to bust, and we're going to have a time to buy in. had no idea it was going to be this big of an opportunity. I mean, like there's been like 7 windows of opportunity to invest in the stock market. It's insane.
Sure.
Anyway, but along with economic crashes, you learn the first thing to go is the energy, the oil. The second thing to go is the jobs. Third is the money or the Federal Reserve. Fourth is the food. Fifth is the land or homes.
Sure.
I mean, anyway, so when we got to the job aspect where everybody was losing their jobs, I was like, ooh, we better get in front of this food thing quickly. And I had read a article or an ad. It wasn't an article, it was an ad from one of the big packers claiming that there was going to be a food shortage a month ahead of time. And I don't think very many people have the gift of prophecy, and I'm definitely not going to listen to that. And so I made the Platte County Meat and Produce Market. And that was just based on knowing that some of our producers around here weren't able to move their animals because there was no place to take the animals to. The processing plants had shut down because of the COVID.
Yeah. So you created a place where they could come, or
Yeah,
where did you do this at?
just at Facebook.
Okay.
It's just a Facebook group, yeah.
So you pretty much rallied everybody that was without a.
Answer it. And
It was a time where you're rallying everybody together under one flag is pretty much what you're
yeah,
doing.
and if I have no other gift, it's that. But anyway, so also since there was going to be a food shortage, that also means food's going to be high priced. Anytime that there's high demand, the prices go up.
Right.
And so I just wanted to jump ahead of that. Just wanted to jump ahead of that a little bit and make sure that our producers had a place to go with these animals and the consumer had a place to get food. So one of the biggest problems that I found right away was I got on the phone and I started calling processing places within 150 miles, trying to find places for these animals to go be butchered at. There isn't any. There isn't any processors out there.
And you've heard about the millions of animals that have been put down because there's nobody to process them.
Yes,
That's a travesty in this country when we have people starving.
absolutely. Well, and there was a reason why that happened. Anyway, so I start calling processing plants, trying to see who's got something open for these animals to go into, and there's no spots, there's no processing plants. And I talked to this one gal, and she said, well, she was mad at me, first of all. I called and I was asking for what she had open. She goes, people should have been thinking about this ahead of time, and
Yeah.
you know, and I understand. And I said, no, listen, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get ahead of this problem. I'm trying to get a jump on this so that we're not having starving people. And I don't think we need to help the big packers hurt us anymore. So we started talking, and I said, well, why isn't there more processors out there? And I'm
going to interject here. Why don't we have a processing plant in Wheatland?
Well, this is why.
Okay.
Because USDA regulations and meeting those regulations is difficult. Then there's Wyoming, who's regulated, is state regulated. In the application that mom and pop people that want to own the little processing plant in Wheatland or whatever, they have to fill out this huge application. And in that application, it says that they cannot make more than $75,000 gross on their own product. So if they have X amount of cows and they want to butcher them and sell their product, they can, but not over 75,000 gross. Gross. So the cows in Jackson, that they get a lot more for just a few cows than they do in Cheyenne. So it doesn't even make sense. So I'm talking to these butchers, and I'm like, oh, well, there's a bigger problem here than we had ever thought. In the meantime, I was on Twitter, and you can get a lot of things done and find out a lot of information on Twitter. And so I ran across this gal who was really diminishing people's hopes. And she was saying things like, everybody just needs to stand in line and take their licks, and this will come around. We just need to wait for the big packers to open back up. And someone got a hold of me and they're like, can you believe this gal is saying this? She is just basically telling us, too bad. But let's look on the bright side. Things will look up eventually. So I got on there and I started chewing on her. And she says, what are you going to do? Are you going to get a couple of mom-pop plants open that only can process 10 a day? And she was saying that, you know, basically we're all subject to this. And I said, watch me. And
Wow.
Then it became more. But the one thing that I have had to do during this whole journey is not run out ahead of God and not accept a dime, not one dime.
Right.
If I accept a dime, the gift's going to be taken from me. And
So this is pretty much your investment into not only our community but into our state. Is this
nation.
this has gone national? You have drawn national attention on this, haven't you, Shonda?
Yeah, in 7 days it had to go national.
And
From
that's
the moment I started the group. By day 3, it was Wyoming meat and produce market. By day 5, it was a 5-state meat and produce market. And then I had East Coast wanting in on it. And so I had to make it the United States meat and produce market. And it just...
So what is the bottom line goal of this website? Is it to unify people, or is it to change regulation? Or what are you going to be able to accomplish by setting up this website?
Okay, so number one, when I set it up, I wanted to connect consumers with producers, producers with consumers. So number one, we know where our meat and produce is coming from. That was number one. And that is what the mission is, to buy local. To buy local, to get your meat from over there, hands-on, transparency.
No middleman.
No middleman, controlling our livelihoods, not even our livelihoods, everyone's livelihoods. 3 or 4 middlemen, big processors that are controlling what our food costs and how much we're getting for our livestock. You know, they control that whole thing, and they're foreign. 85% of them are foreign.
And they've said this for years, that the brokerages were going to come in and bankrupt the farmers and bankrupt America. And they're doing it to the truckers right now, and they're also doing it to the farmers right now. As the brokerages that come in, they can't even speak English, and they're on the other side of the world dictating what we can do here in this country. Somebody's got their pockets lined on an echelon that we can't even fathom.
Even at a local. Even at a local. And this goes one, it has astonished me. I barely graduated high school, period. I am not an educated person, and I just barely started digging, and I found out more information than I ever want to know. And no one else knows it. And I think it's a tragedy that I have more knowledge than most about this. And people need to be educated on who they're voting for. They need to do their own digging on who they are going to elect next.
Right. Because it's going to have a bearing on where we head after this whole thing. The Food Coalition here in Wyoming, that's in its grassroots stages, also is trying to do the same thing. They're primarily pushing the produce, the wondering why our schools and why our prisons and why our institutions are not buying more local, keeping our dollars here in Wyoming. And we're not the only state that wants this.
Oh, absolutely.
There are states all over the place that want this. You're going to run into a problem with this with the big aggregates that want to protect their money and protect their lining in their pockets. And I think it interesting that these big companies have shut down due to a little bacteria, and it has literally opened the door again for the mom and pop butchers and the producers.
No, the rich people have been saying that there's a transfer of wealth happening right now, and they're right. There is, but it's not like they think. And it's not in their favor. And 2020 has created clarity. Those that are manipulating the system in evil ways, we've given them enough rope that they are hanging themselves. They are becoming transparent all on their very own.
Right.
We don't really need to do anything except for put the American producer with the American consumer. And so we made the Facebook page. But
Simple plan.
It was.
The producer with the consumer.
Yeah.
Weeding out a lot of the middlemen, weeding out a lot of the red tape, weeding out a lot of the legislation.
The cloudiness.
The cloudiness of things. Because if you ask most of them what's going on, first of all, some of them don't know, and the other ones will not tell you.
Or they're in on it.
Or they're in on it.
And that's been frustrating. Because I know what I'm doing is for, not even what I'm doing. I'm going to say that different. I know what's being done is for the good of America, period. I mean, period. There is no, this is not a self-motivated thing. I'm not getting anything out of it. This is so America can be dependent on America. Now, who would be against that and why?
That's the main question. Why are we so secure when it's stamped with a USDA stamping because of the fear that goes out that it may be tainted meat, it may not be up to standards, it may not be up to the right specifications. That's the fear that they're hanging on everything that they do. How do you answer that?
I think it answers itself. I really do. I mean, who are you going to believe? This person that you're looking at? Or are you going to, a bunch of people that you've never seen? Are you going to listen to people that are getting paid off? Or are you going to listen to the person that's just trying to make a living?
Correct.
And I think that this site, well, okay, number one, we made the map for free. This map's huge, and it's got over 500 producers on it nationwide. It speaks for itself. The gal that's stepped up, that Michelle Sinecki, that she stepped up to make the map, she knew it was for the greater good of America. She's not getting paid a dime for it. I mean, she works for WyoGISC, and it's great, but they're allowing this as a side project.
Right.
And
explain a little bit to me the map.
it's over my head. I don't know how to. I said, wouldn't it be nice to, okay, Michelle was making a spreadsheet. There was Michelle and then this other gal from Meeteetse, I think that was, or Fort Washakie, that was making a spreadsheet that had producers on it, but too many were coming. And there was no way to keep up. And so they made a deal where you could fill it out and then it would be put on the spreadsheet. Well, this Michelle, she just kept stepping up and doing what needed to be done for free. And I didn't know her. She didn't know anything to me.
Right.
And so I got a hold of her and I'm like, who are you? And why are you doing this? She goes, well, it needs to be done. And she's always had an interest in farmers markets and buying locals, so it just needed to be done.
Right.
And I said, you know what'd be really neat is if we could make a Craigslist type site and just let people have a free market, free trade. You know, that would just be awesome.
Right.
And she goes, oh, I can do that but better. And I go, really?
And she set that up on Facebook, right? Or
No.
is it set up on like a Craigslist type thing?
No, it's through YOGISC, but it's,
Okay.
anyway, I can't really explain it.
Okay.
You have to, she works for YOGISC, and
Yeah.
they are a geographical mapping.
Right. So they were hooking up and connecting people. They're helping to connect the dots here.
Yes.
One of the things
For
that I
free.
think people don't realize is this: is if you produce and you're a producer or you're slaughtering things like this to sell. Some people think it's when you talk about that, it's back alley butcher shops, and that's not what we're talking about.
No.
Every single thing, every single processor, whether it's a mom and pop shop or whether it's a producer that can produce down the street, everybody's got to adhere to the guidelines of the health department and the codes in the state of Wyoming.
And
That is totally safe, correct?
totally safe. And butchers take pride in their work. They don't even want the cuts wrong. The cuts have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. They are perfectionists at what they do.
As opposed to what goes on in some of the major slaughterhouses.
For people that are underpaid,
Yeah.
undocumented,
Yeah.
and if you look on some of the posts on the page, there's people that have either their kids work for them or for one of the big packers, or they work for one of the big packers, and they'll tell you, it says it right on the page, what's going on.
Yeah.
It says it.
And they're afraid, the fear there is that they're afraid of losing their jobs.
Sure.
Nobody saw the COVID coming, obviously, where the jobs have just gone by the wayside, and a $1,200 stimulus didn't even come close to, even meeting, half of a month of a need for some of these people.
Right.
So I can see their fear, but again, when this thing is over, we're going to have to step it up because there's going to be a major shortage of beef that's going to be produced. Is that correct?
Well, no, I don't believe so.
There's going to be a shortage. There's plenty of beef in the United States that's
There's shortage of processors.
complete.
That's what I mean. A shortage of processors, not a shortage of beef. There are cows that are being put down because there's nobody to process them
I
right
haven't heard of cows being put down, but I've heard of pigs.
Hogs.
now. Yeah,
Pigs being euthanized and chickens being euthanized.
pigs and chickens. Yes.
I haven't heard of cows yet, and if anybody is putting down their cattle, call us first. But there's jobs.
The
Not
jobs are
only
going to
that-
be available out there, whether
Oh.
that's. I don't think it's.
The number one issue with why these processors are not open is they can't find enough help.
Right.
So you've got the butcher trades, the schools that are putting on the trade schools for butchers, but they can learn the same thing going and getting a job at the butcher shop, learning how to do it, and they can get
Hands-on.
paid to do it.
Like
They
any
can get
other
paid.
profession, they can become a journeyman.
Yeah, hands-on.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so the trade, trade schools are great. I'm not knocking trade schools,
Right.
but these people need help now.
Right.
And if you're willing to learn the perfection and learn the art,
Right.
then, get on it because jobs are out there.
Exactly.
And the people that are missing their jobs from the big processors, they need to look a little further.
Yeah.
And want to live within your dreams, do not go sit by the well. Because this has blown my mind. I can't believe this has happened. I can't. I'm not capable of making a map.
Right.
I'm not capable of putting proposals on Trump's Trump's desk to get processing plants open.
But you have floated the idea, and you have created a template.
And all that they have to do is list their animal on the page. Somebody's going to buy it. You got meat you need to get rid of, it's gone. You list it on the page, it's gone. It's gone. It just tickles me every time I get on the page and I see somebody list meat and it's gone 3 hours later. I mean,
hundreds and hundreds of animals.
And what is the site that they have to go on to either list or buy?
It's too long to list, right?
But you can go to your website on
To the
Facebook,
page,
to your Facebook page,
and the
and
link
click
is
the
on
link,
there.
right? Okay. And again, the name of your website
The
is
Facebook group is United States Meat and Produce Market.
United States Meat and Produce Market. Now, we are going to be having you also on another grassroots project here in Wyoming that's all about hooking up the small and the medium range producers onto one page so that they know that they're not alone out there, they're not stuck in an island someplace. We're going to help them, we're going to network them, things are going to come together, and it's called the Food Coalition. And we will be on an edition of Homespun, and Shonda, they want you to be part of that also. They're more into the fruits and vegetables and produce buying locally, but I think the meat has also got to do a follow on this too.
Oh, yes.
Now, how many hits have you gotten on your web page?
I think we have 17,400 members-ish. Last I looked, I don't know.
Okay.
And then there's over 500 producers on the map.
Okay.
And that's everything from beef to fish.
Okay.
I mean, and then fruits and vegetables and
So they've got
Lean,
seafood on. They've got seafood on there. They've got beef. They've got hogs on there, sheep, things like this. They've got the whole gamut of things.
everything.
Everything.
Things I've never even thought about trying to eat. Rabbit. We have rabbit producers selling and.
Well, I'm sure probably the buffalo people then too.
Oh, definitely.
They're selling
Yeah.
bison.
But I think we even had emus.
Oh.
Somebody
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that's a first, but great.
Tastes like chicken. I don't know. But
I don't know. Never tried that.
yeah,
one.
I'll eat chicken. This is an incredible thing. And now, Shonda, I appreciate you coming on Homespun. I appreciate both you and Tyler standing behind this. One of the fears of doing this and coming out openly like this is the fight that's going to battle. But I think this is your time. And the battle has got to be brought for the American people. You're not battling this for yourselves. You
No.
guys aren't getting anything out of this.
Nope.
This is for the American people. This is for the producers, and this is for the consumers. And that's what this is all about. So anybody that's watched this even a little bit, and somebody wants to take her on one-on-one, what would you say, Tyler? Good luck, right?
Bring an army.
You better bring an army, because you're coming against a woman that has stood toe-to-toe with death and has not backed off.
Yes.
So I believe that if you're in crisis, this is the couple that's going to stand in your corner. And it's been an honor to have you guys on Homespun today, and I thank you guys so much for what you're doing. And I know it gets weary in the battle, but be not weary in your well-doing.
Oh,
And so thank you guys so much.
thank
Thank
you.
you.